we're going to get going here. I got over 100 of you live. Welcome. Thank you for supporting this project, and thanks for joining us, number 37 of the live stream series. So let's get to it here. This area, 7th Arrondissement, will give you a nice pan. Boy, you really get your money's worth with architecture around here. Some of that classic Haussmannian architecture that we love so. Hi, Debbie Shelton. I see you there. Great to have you here. Super fan Debbie Shelton, as I like to say. Hi, Bruce. Look at this building. Speaking of the, great little sidewalk cafes and wrought iron balconies. I don't know if it plays out on video, but there is a very slight pink hue to this building, and that's not a trick of the light. It actually, in real life, is very slightly tinted pink. I'll try to compare it to the building to the left there. And can you see the difference? Can you see the pinkish hue there? Really lovely. David says he's under the weather today, and this is good medicine for him. Marty Fankhauser is here, fantastic. That French vibe, our good friend Marianne Borg from Australia says, wow, 37 episodes already. I feel the same way, Marianne. That's insane. That's a lot of great content I've been throwing your way, and I'm pretty pleased with that. This silhouette here is going to be our first detail, our first point of interest in the 7th Arrondissement here. Again, we're in an area that I at least refer to as Sèvres-Babylone. We're near the Bon Marché department store, which I'll show you that building later. So let's see if we can get a view of what's going on here. I know it's backlit on a day like today. We've got a sculpture. We've got a centaur, that classic mythical beast that is half man in the front and then horse in the back. What we've got going on here is this is actually an artist called César. And César was a prominent artist in the 70s and 80s here. And César was a very good friend of Picasso, Pablo Picasso, and a great admirer of Picasso. So he decided, Mr. César, to do an homage to Picasso, who was known for doing these sort of found object sculptures. And César, the artist, was into that as well. So César has portrayed himself as a self-portrait, but what you see attached to his head there, let's see if I can expose for the sculpture itself, if I can lighten things up for you a little bit. No, I guess that's about as bright as I can get it for you. Anyway, that is César, the artist, with actually a mask of Picasso on top of his head. So imagine he's got a mask of his great hero, art hero, and the mask has been lifted up onto his forehead. So that's what's going on there. And if we zoom in a little bit, you can see that it's meant, even though it's cast in bronze, it's meant to represent found objects, bits of old car and machinery and things that you would find in a dumpster, essentially. This artist, César, died in 1998, and his tomb is in the Montparnasse Cemetery. And interestingly, you can find this same statue, a version of this famous work, on his tomb in Montparnasse. So there we go. Look at that blue sky. That's the centaur of Sèvres-Babylone. We're going to cross over the street here when we can. Bob's asking me if I've snuck into any more bell towers. If you have not yet checked out my blog, A French Fry in Paris, and the most recent post, how I snuck into a bell tower, it was a pretty extraordinary experience. And I blogged all about it with photos and videos and whatnot, so check that out. No, Bob, to answer your question, I have not snuck into any recently. I usually don't force the issue. I usually just wait until those opportunities present themselves. Good morning, Carol. I see you there. Hi, June. Awesome and loyal Frye supporter, June Parham. Yeah, Jennifer's mentioning how great it is that there are beautiful sculptures and statues for all to share, and I think that's great as well. By the same token, this is an old building of the Société Générale, one of the great banks of Paris, one of the great institutions. And it does still house a modern version of the Société Générale. But what this building is interesting for are those mosaics, those beautiful 5 mosaics that are a blend historically, or stylistically, I should say, a blend of Art Nouveau and the Italian Renaissance. But the mosaics themselves, actually, at the main entrance of this bank, done in 1902. A mosaicist, actually, that came from Venice. He was no ordinary mosaicist. His name was Facchina. And if you're a lover in Paris of the great Galerie Vivienne, one of the great covered passages, the shopping arcades, he did those classic mosaic floors of the Galerie Vivienne. He also went on to do part of the Opera House and the Petit Palais in Paris, and so he was the real deal. Now there are 5 women here because they represent, back in 1902, the 5 known continents. The world was considered to have 5 continents, not 7, and so that's what they represent. Over here, if you can make it out, we've got a beautiful sculpture of the classic staff with the 2 snakes intertwined, the winged staff. A lot of people think of the medical community when they see a staff with snakes wrapped around it, but the medical community actually adopted it from its original symbolism, which was used as the god Mercury, the Roman god of Mercury, who was a god of many things, but one of them was commerce. So you will see the staff of Mercury used in a lot of these commercial and financial spaces. And so that's what's going on there. Quite a beautiful little leftover, again, from over 100 years ago now. I'm going to show you some other mosaics as we make our way further. Here at number 8, I got to keep my head on a swivel today because the architectural details are plenty. Just look at that little, it's just subtle, but a little cast iron bit of detail there, almost like a ribbon tied and attached to the building. And just the amount of detail here on these buildings is really an example of the fine artistry that you'd expect in one of these wealthier areas of Paris. So we're in the 7th Arrondissement if you're just joining us, if you missed it. That in the distance is a beautifully illuminated Bon Marché department store in the park in front of it. That's where we're headed at the moment. You got these great classic cafes along here too. We're on the Rue de Sèvres. And here's another building. I'm actually going to back out into the street just a little bit. Number 10, Rue de Sèvres. You can see the little invader, the Space Invader mosaic there, right? And then look at the entrance here. My goodness, with those little cherub characters. And then let me again safely back up into the street here and just show you the general facade, the architecture here. And it's just building after building of that. It's a high-rent area, to say the least. If we can zoom in, you know I like to doink my camera off a couple of windows each video. So let me pass through the pedestrian traffic here. Ironwork of the doors. We can catch a little glimpse inside here, if you can make that out, of the entrance. All these nice subtle little touches, right? Ah, Linda Davis, you've brought someone over. You've brought a convert over to you, and you're watching this together. That's fantastic. Thanks for that comment. Over here to the left, we've got the famous Hermès department store. That's very famous. I asked them if we could film inside there. They said no, absolutely not. So I won't show you the inside of Hermès, but we're right there. It is a very lovely place to go in and just browse around. I suggest you do so. Boy, look at the light, that beautiful October sunlight just scraping across there. Let's meditate on that for a moment. So wherever you are, I hope you're enjoying this little bit of a vicarious stroll. That's the idea here. Hi, Sue-Ann Hum. Great to see your name. That name, Sue-Ann Hum, reminds me of an announcement that I want to make during this video, so hopefully I'll remember to do that in a moment. Here I got to show you, boy, I'm about to show you, this gets me excited, I'm about to show you the most secluded and private little set of benches that you may ever find in Paris. And I hope you'll appreciate this for those who don't know it. This is called the Rue Récamier. The Rue Récamier is actually named after a 19th century socialite, Madame de Récamier. And back in the 1800s, she lived in this alleyway, along this alleyway, in a grand palace. And she was a good-looking girl, a clever girl, and she was very intellectual. And she actually would wine and dine and entertain the brightest minds and dignitaries of the 19th century. So down this very alleyway, or the Rue Récamier, named after that lady, Balzac would come through here, Chateaubriand, Victor Hugo, all of these gentlemen would come and they would love to dine with Madame Récamier. Oh, and hence the name of that. So you can see it's going to get quieter here. Hi, Jacqueline. Thanks for that comment. A French teacher who watches these videos while she's preparing her classes. That's very fitting. Thanks, Jacqueline. I appreciate that. You've got a great French name, by the way. You could probably start the lesson each year with how to pronounce my name properly. That'd be good for the students. Okay, so you can hear it's getting quieter now. This is a little park tucked away at the end of the street called Square Roger Stéphane. You can see from 1933. First, let me just show you what the approach feels like. I love these cobbled steps here. Right. It's pretty down there too, right? Okay. This is the site of a former convent. There was a 17th century abbey back in the day. There were abbeys and convents everywhere in this area of the 7th Arrondissement. And so this old one was removed, most likely by the French Revolution. And it is this little tucked away park. It's a bunch of benches. Here there's a little fountain area, a body of water right here. Very well insulated from the sound of the street. And let me show you the two best hidden spots. So that's where we came from, by the way. Right from there. So let me show you what's going on here. This cute little staircase. We love this, don't we? We love the transporting experiences where you temporarily feel like you're not even in a major European city anymore. So up the steps. And there's a little bench here waiting for you. And there's another one over here. And if I back up here to the edge, you know that I'm very big on this idea of finding your own personal version of Paris, where you can have an intimate interaction with the city. And this is a place where you can do exactly that. Come here with a friend, with a lover, or just with a good book. Perfect. And then I'm going to take you to the other extra secluded place. I can hear that there's already someone there at the moment, so just use your imagination for this next spot. And imagine that it's empty, and you can just enjoy it all to yourself, because most times of the day you can. Here there's a little playground for the kids. And then look, there's a little trellis. So I don't know if these guys back here are going to appreciate getting filmed. I'm just going to show you a real quick look. So there's this little trellis here. Let me show you. The stairs. It's cute, right? Bonjour. Excusez-moi, je filme juste un petit peu l'endroit. Excusez-moi. So they say it's fine. Cool. Look at this, a couple of benches. Ah, on a un spectacle en plus, merci. We have a show as well. So let me go to the back here. Let me back up and show you what's going on here. So just two benches, little cobblestone square. And you've got your own little street lamp. Merci les gars. Bonne journée. Au revoir. Great spot, huh? Look at the trellis. Sue and Hum says we can hear my footsteps. It's just that quiet. So keep this one in mind if you're in the 7th and you need to get away from the commotion on that main avenue there. It's the Square Roger Stéphane. That name, by the way, that's a writer and a journalist who was part of the liberation of Paris at the Hôtel de Ville, the city hall. It's always nice when those resistance fighters get credit and get their name attached to these beautiful spaces. So here, this is where we entered. Not the most historic architecture here, but that's rather nice as well, isn't it? What's going on there? Different style of balcony. And we'll make our way out of one of certainly the best hidden parks of the 7th. Here we go. So yeah, Sue-Ann Hum, everybody, if you remember, she is the amazing person who gave us that private after-hours access to the gardens at Giverny, Monet's famous water lily gardens. If you didn't see that video, definitely go back and check it out, check out the replay. She was able to give me after-hours access, and it was literally just me and you and her. She was painting at the time. And then I interviewed her for a cafe chat. Well, Sue-Ann Hum actually wants to give all of the Frites, that is to say my Patreon supporters, a big old fat discount on her paintings. She is going to not only sell you her existing paintings, which, let me tell you, she's a fantastic artist and she paints a lot of scenes from France and from Paris specifically. She's going to give you a nice big fat discount if you are one of my Patreon Frite followers. So I'll give you more details in our private Facebook group. But just know that that is on the way. And Sue-Ann, thank you for that. And you made a nice video from your studio that I'll be sharing with the Frites, with my Patreon supporters. And that's just one of the perks that I'm trying to give you along the way. I hope you appreciate it. We'll talk more about it. But yeah, you're going to get a nice discount. If there's a painting that Sue has done that you don't necessarily want to buy, but you have an idea, an image of Paris that you've always wanted to have painted for you, she will do that. You can provide her with a photo, or I will take a photo for you of any place in Paris, send it along to Sue. She'll do a one-of-a-kind, unique, hand-painted version of it, and sell it to you at a nice big fat discount. So stay tuned for that. Should be pretty fun. Christina Consolet says, loving this stroll. Speaking of Christina Consolet, we have a book club. It's called the Frite Reads. And if you are a Patreon member, if you are a Frite, check out our sharing page, our private page on Facebook called the Sharing Page, that group, and hook up with Christina. She is running the book club. And there is currently a book related to Paris that everyone's reading, and they will have a discussion about it later in the year. So Christina's managing all that. Just wanted to remind you. Here we go. Let's make our way to the park in front of the Bon Marché. Ooh, lovely light today, huh? Let me show you while we're waiting for traffic. Look at that beauty. Oh my goodness. Breathtaking. Breathtaking. And then look at this right now. This one they've been working on for a while. Good stuff. Oh, I got the signal to cross and I missed it. Oh well. Wait, we still got it. We still got time. We still got time. Go, go, go. Thank you, bus. All right. Into the park. I like this park. This park has the image that I used for the sort of cover image to advertise this live video yesterday. That building behind is the Bon Marché department store that we'll talk about. You can see the sign on the roof there, right? Le Bon Marché. Let me try to expose a little better for you here. There we go. Better. Behind me, before we get started, there's a great tropical vibe here that I love. There's a statue here. Isn't that a lovely composition? Let's meditate on that for a second. The gentleman who created the Bon Marché was a gentleman called Boucicault. And Boucicault, his wife, is represented here, as well as a lady called Madame de Hirsch. So Boucicault and Hirsch, helping out the local children. That's a 19th century piece of statuary there. And so the name Boucicault is very big around here because they are the family, husband and wife, who started and ran the Bon Marché. So I particularly love these perspectives. I'm showing you my favorite way to walk through this park because look at the vegetation here. Let me sit on this bench. The vegetation here is pretty unexpected, isn't it? Again, as much as I love Paris for sure, and I want to spend the rest of my life here, I do love feeling transported from it occasionally. Or I just like being surprised, I guess that's the best way to look at it. Paris can certainly surprise you. I can see in the comments that you're all thanking Sue-Ann for the upcoming discount on her artwork. I think that's fantastic, thanks. Love this community for sure. Let's look back this way here. Look at that, just really unexpected trees here, right? A great space. Hi Maureen, I see you there. Nice to have you. So let's talk as we approach the Bon Marché department store. Let's talk about it because it was a pretty special place. It was started in 1852, the Bon Marché, and it's considered the world's first department store, actually. It was very modest at the beginning. It wasn't this big. It actually just had 12 employees at the start, but eventually it would become the largest store in the world, and they had over 4,000 employees. Went from 12 to 4,000. I'll show you a better view of the building itself. Now, in the 1850s, the Bon Marché was starting these very new ideas, ideas we take for granted now. Here's the Bon Marché building. New ideas in the mid-1800s, things like putting price tags on merchandise. That wasn't really done. You could stroll through a shop with no obligation to buy, which was also rather a new idea. You could touch the products, you could try them on in the mirror, gloves, scarves, hats, which also wasn't particularly done in fashion establishments before the Bon Marché. So the women could essentially decide themselves if they could afford it or if they wanted to buy it, rather than having the merchant tell you, oh, let me show you something more in your price range, for example, or oh no, that's not quite for you, madame. So the Bon Marché changed the landscape of how you would shop and how you'd interact with the process of shopping. And it encouraged women really for the first time ever to do something they'd never done, which was to spend extended amounts of time outside of their homes alone or with each other. Usually you'd just be on the arm of your man and you wouldn't hang out in public spaces without him. And so these early department stores encouraged women to do that. And while we're speaking of women, they also were very, very good at the Bon Marché of employing women. In fact, half of those 4,000 employees were women, 50% of them female, and so that was a pretty big deal. And they would have housing upstairs for the women if they needed it, at a time when women were often coerced or even forced into other less reputable types of professions, houses of ill repute and whatnot. This was some good, honest work that Mr. Boucicault and his wife were offering female workers of Paris. That was a very big deal. First public restrooms for women were in this building, etc. So the Bon Marché was really, really ahead of its time. We can't film inside because, again, I asked if I could film inside and they said no. So here you go. I can, however, show you some details around the outside. Again, we're in the 7th Arrondissement, an area known as Sèvres-Babylone, which is the metro station that we just walked past. There's another building of the Bon Marché. You can see the signage up there, Magasin du Bon Marché. But right here, on the northern side of the building, this is where the employees come out to smoke. But look at these beauties. On both sides, we've got some mosaics from 1876. And let me just pan up and give you a feel for those. Dentelle is lace. And then up here, ruban means ribbons. Just gorgeous. And then let's pan around the other side. This one's a little darker. It doesn't have as much daylight on it, but you get the idea right here. Toile meaning canvas or a fabric that you'd use for your curtains. This is all beautifully hand-laid mosaic. And rideau meaning curtains. Again, 1876, beautiful. Now, literally, this isn't even an entrance to the building. It's just a place where the employees of the Bon Marché come out to have a cigarette. But I think it's lovely that that detail has remained. Let me cross over the street here, because as we walk along the northern side of the Bon Marché on the left here, I got to show you, if you followed a few videos previously, I talk occasionally, this bus of course is in the way, right at the wrong moment. The big iron awning that's being held up is actually being held up by lion heads. Do you see there are thin metal bars, thin iron bars, going from the awning up to these beautiful lion heads. Can you make that out right there? And I've talked about that before, how this was a Parisian thing where the awnings were always held up by these lions with the iron rods in their mouths. And here the Bon Marché took it to really a very fancy and elaborate level. Hopefully you can make that out on the video. So I think that ties in nicely with something that I've been trying to show you in previous videos. This is a fine example of that concept. Oh, Phyllis says that thanks to me, she always looks for the lion heads now. That's awesome. I love it. Now, the 7th Arrondissement where we are is also a very religious one. There might be, pound for pound, more churches and chapels in the 7th Arrondissement than any other district. And one of them is dedicated to the miraculous medal, miraculous medallion. And there's a great story, and we're going to pop into this chapel, or toward it at least, and see how far we can go in before they tell us to stop filming. We're actually right now sandwiched between two buildings of the Bon Marché, the one on the left, the one on the right. At the end, just beneath that elevated passageway that you see there, the corridor, is the very fine épicerie du Bon Marché. So épicerie meaning food shop, notably a gourmet food shop. Over 30,000 products from around the world. And in that one enclosed food shop, they've got a butcher, a fishmonger, bakers, they've got pre-made food, they've got chocolate, they've got literally everything you need. Okay, here we go. This is the chapel of the miraculous medal, right here. Bonjour. Can you make that out? So in 1813, they place a chapel at the end of this alleyway. And the chapel was run by an order of nuns called the Daughters of Charity. A little bit later, it's 1830, and in that chapel, one of the nuns is praying. And she is visited during her prayer 3 times by the Virgin Mary. And the Virgin Mary each time asks her to do certain things, makes certain requests. And one of them is, I want you to produce a medallion, a sort of religious medal that can be given or sold to the parishioners. And it's going to be a miraculous medal that will cure all of their ailments and protect them. That nun's name was Saint Catherine Labouré, and you can see her up there. You enter underneath her. That's on her knees. Saint Catherine Labouré is being visited by the Virgin Mary. And so ever since then, the chapel has been known as the Chapel of the Miraculous Medal, and you can still purchase them here today. And people make pilgrimages here from all around the world to go in the chapel and to see the place where the Virgin Mary herself visited this nun back in 1830. The doors are open, so I'm not going to say anything inside, but I will give you a quick glimpse of the chapel itself. I'm quite pleased that the doors were open so I could at least in a taxi, come to this chapel to pray, and then to go back to the airport. So let me show you one last time here. Saint Catherine Labouré being visited by Mary and receiving the request to make these medallions. And you can still get these medallions here at this chapel, and people come from all around to do so. A couple years after she was visited by Mary, there was a terrible cholera outbreak in Paris, and it wiped out thousands and thousands of Parisians. Well, apparently, so it is said, the patients in the hospitals that received those medallions were cured of their cholera. So that was really all that Parisians needed for proof back then, and so it stuck. I may have lost you there if you're watching live. I see that my signal was a little weak in the chapel, but never fear, on the replay it should be good. You can go back and see. This place is called Frye, real nice chocolate shop. This has been a family-run business since 1819. It's been on the street. No, it's okay, ça va. So next year, it's going to mark 200 years that this business has been serving chocolate on this street of the Rue du Bac. They still use packaging that's inspired by the old 1920s Art Deco aesthetic, which is pretty great. Speaking of Art Deco, I feel like there's a little bit of Art Deco in these light fixtures here, Frye. This location has a tea room in the back. So when I'm in this area, this is my go-to chocolate stop, for sure. All right, a couple more things to show you here. That's another department store called the Conran Shop. Beautiful in its own right. Amy Kleinbach asked how I can remember so many details, and the answer is I'm just completely obsessed with Paris. So the obsession helps. That's how I would explain it. Healthy obsession. This entrance here, we've got another church that we're not allowed to film in this one. There's a crypt beneath, and then the chapel on top. And I like this. This is just another hidden spot. Let me show you the full view here. It's quite Baroque in style. It actually dates back to the 17th century, which is where this aesthetic would have come from. And we're just in this little courtyard here, and then there's what I can assume are religious residences tucked away in the back. Oh, someone just said it's their favorite episode so far. Who said that? Marianne. Thank you, Marianne. I appreciate that. Let's do the trick here, right? You know the trick. Okay. Okay, let's get back through the gate here. Hope you enjoyed that view. This, by the way, this building is called the Chapel of the Mission Étrangère de Paris, so foreign missions of pilgrims or of folks, that go on religious missions, rather. This is the chapel to that. Yeah, I can see someone else asking what the name of this chapel is. Let me show you the actual signage. Right here, Mission Étrangère de Paris. It's just another one of those spaces that's so easy to walk by, and it seems like everybody does. And yesterday those doors were open, and if they ever are, I encourage you to go in. You're not allowed to take photos inside of the chapel, but you're certainly allowed to walk in and appreciate the space. See how we're doing on time here? Ooh, my goodness. We're running late. And if you don't mind, I'm going to move a little bit faster here. Oops, sorry. I did not mean to yank on my cable. I always assume these walks are going to take 30 minutes tops. But I guess I just like to talk a lot because they never do take 30 minutes. Okay. Phyllis says we don't mind if the walks are longer. Okay, so the sun has set a little bit. We won't get the same luminosity here. But remember the nun that was visited by the Virgin Mary? Sorry, I'm a little out of breath here. That nun's name was Saint Catherine Labouré, and that's the name of this park because that same order of nuns, the Daughters of Charity, they used this area as their vegetable garden. And it is a vast public park with a cute little chapel there. Just like earlier when I showed you that very quiet, secluded park off the beaten track, I consider this to be the same thing but on steroids. So I'm backing up now to show you the perspective. I shared a panorama of this park on my Facebook just a couple hours ago. Look at this, just stunning. It's just as quiet as can be, it's just families. Little tree-lined alley on this side, one on the other as well. Beautiful blue sky. A little bit of the fall color is still coming through as well. This is big. This is actually 7,000 square meters. And if you want the square footage, the formula is simple. You just got to multiply by 10. It'll give you the general square footage. So that means we're talking about 70,000 square feet. And it doesn't end here. It actually continues and goes into this area. Ooh, there we're catching a little last bit of the sunset. Yeah, Maria Bergman says it's huge. Who would have thought it's right in the middle of the city? Exactly. These are the discoveries that still blow me away. It's great. This is just, it's not too packed. It's just parents with their kids. This is a little one trying to learn how to walk. Doing a pretty good job. So again, there were so many religious spaces, orders of nuns and monks and convents and chapels and churches in the 7th Arrondissement. And even though a lot of that fell victim to the whole Haussmannian redo when they bulldozed through the avenues and the boulevards, something about the 7th Arrondissement really sort of harks back to those old religious days. It's all around you if you know where to look. So I hope you're all enjoying this. Let's see, as we make our way back out, I'm going to walk toward the cafe where we'll have our private Frye Patreon chat with Ms. Peggy Baker. And let me just do one of these. That's me. Anyone notice here what's going on up here? Yeah, so I'm Corey Frye, French Fry in Paris. If you didn't already know, I'm a full-time tour guide. If you're coming to Paris, go ahead and contact me through my blog. The link is in the description of this replay that's going to go up on my Facebook. And I'm on Instagram if you want to get into my photography. If you want to become a Patreon supporter and get a lot of perks, including private content and extra content and maps of these walks and, you know, access to those private chats that we have in the cafe and whatnot. And the Frye meets. We meet each other in person most Wednesdays. For those who are in Paris and want to have a drink with me and other supporters of the community, we do that as well. So there are a lot of reasons to do that. Otherwise, let me show you this view again. And let's make our way out of this park. I also put a link in the description of all the previous replays of these videos. This is number 37. But way back in the day, there was an episode 1. And should you wish to watch that, either for the first time or rewatch it, you can find that link in this description. Go to the videos page of my Facebook. June is asking for the name of this park. This park is named after Sainte Catherine Labourée. If I can find a sign on my way out, June, I'll show you the sign so you can make a note of it. So this video ran a little bit late, but I think that was worth it. One last look at the park. And let's find that sign for June Parm. Here you go, June. Catherine Labourée, the nun that was visited by the Virgin Mary and told to create miraculous medals and medallions to give to people for protection. And that is going to end our walk today. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining me. I hope to see you very soon for another live walk through Paris. And of course, keep an eye out. I'll be posting some Paris content. Remember, if you can't bring yourself to Paris, I'm going to keep bringing Paris to you. And I will catch you on the next one. Take care and have a lovely weekend, everybody. Pop over if you're a Patreon supporter to our private cafe chat group, and we're going to talk to Peggy in just a few minutes. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.